this idea, I imagine, draws from a lot of personal experience with you and your co-writer Nick. But yeah, shed some light on like why this kind of felt like therapeutic in a way to maybe get all these feelings out, but why this path, why this medium to tell the story.
I think for my like my co-writer and I do joke about it quite a bit. Nick and I would like, that when there's a big speech where he's going, yeah, I'm in my 30s and I'm really struggling. My parents want me to figure my stuff out. Like it was sort of like the veil is very thin. Um, but yeah, so my co-writer Nick and I, we'd been sort of throwing ideas around for a while. We'd done a short sketch that sort of had we would shoot in a void and would use minimalistic props to kind of paint the picture of where we were and allow the audience to like fill in the rest with their imagination. Um, and so that's more from like a logistical point of view. And as you can tell, that's not really a story, like we were just sort of like, oh, but that's maybe something we could like afford to shoot, Um, and then at some point, I think the film for us, it really felt like we had something when we had this moment where something clicked, where we were like, okay, there's a character and he's trapped in a void world, but his earthly body is lying on his bathroom floor. And the hook of the movie is going to be, how did he get there and can he wake himself up? Like once that clicked into place and that sort of he'd have to go through his own memories, almost being who done it, he's his own Poirot, like trying to figure out what happened to me, and he's having to kind of go through his own memories, Christmas Carol style, in order to figure out how he got there. And so in that process, we would hopefully reveal a lot about him as a character. Once that came together, we really felt like, okay, now we think we have a movie that we can succinctly pitch with like the hook and all of that stuff, but also something that would hopefully be um, fun to watch. And yeah, like you said, I think hopefully our hook or our twist on these characters, because obviously many films like this exist, right? Ranging from It's a Wonderful Life to, I like to bring up more recently, like I loved Soul, Pixar's Soul, like
Yeah.
but hopefully what we felt wasn't as often portrayed, because I think often stories about struggling creatives and it's obviously there's a reason creative people are drawn to those stories because we
Yeah.
go, we get it. But I think a lot of those stories will often end with the character being rewarded eventually, like, oh, they struggle and then they make it, like meaning in their career. And we were sort of interested in like, what if making it is learning to be a better person?
From that short film concept that you had to like this bigger feature concept that you had, how did that art design come to be? Like what was your art department like, and who kind of was like
Mm-hmm.
spearheading that look itself?
I got to work with my production designer who I'd worked with many times before. Her name's Katie Thiel. We both went to USC together and we'd started working on various projects. I think one of the first projects I ever brought her onto, we needed her to get like a space pod, and she was just someone on a small budget, as is always the case.
Yeah.
And she was just so like, I'll figure it out. And ever since then, I was like, I want to work with Katie on everything. Like and yeah, I think for the Void, it felt very natural to
Mhm.
go to Katie and work with her, and then our art director Bethany. I think but at the same time, where I felt like I needed to pitch them, the process was, because obviously you're making a small movie and you're going to have to go in with the usual caveats of like, okay, it's going to be tight. And,
Yeah.
but my hope was that it would be still fun and creative for them, because the props obviously play such a big role. Like, they have to build the regular apartment, but also the sort of what is the minimalistic version of the apartment in the Void. And that the sort of props are actually like very, and the design of the set is all very important to the
Yeah.
audience being able to like track what's going on. So that felt exciting. It was like, oh, you get to create like multiple worlds within this, and they did a great job. Yeah. So the way we approached it was we shot the majority of a film on a soundstage. I think 12 of our 15 days, I believe, were on a soundstage. And the way we did it was, first we built the whole apartment. So we did all the scenes that are, them sort of Christmas caroling and walking through the memories and all the
Yeah.
things that are set in the real world. Um, and then we started stripping the set away as like a way to
Oh.
then do all the Void stuff. So that way you would be like, okay, we're taking out the wall, but we're leaving the door, or we're taking out and I make that sound so simple now, but even in the process, it was like, how do we get the doors to stand by themselves? Like all of those there's so many like strange things that turned out to be really complicated. But yeah, that was sort of the hope of also how we could keep the film from becoming too visually uninteresting as well. It's like, okay,
Mm,
we're whipping back and forth between these different worlds and hopefully keeping scenes fresh that way. Because it's you're told as a filmmaker, aren't you? Like, oh, come up with a movie that you can do in like a singular location. But I think that's sort of not how story or creativity works, right? Like, you don't
mhm.
necessarily think of your limitation and then figure out the story. But this felt like a way to go. Hopefully, we could have our cake and eat it too, where the film would feel bigger. Like you said, you have the path and you have those expansive moments, while I think most filmmakers can tell, ultimately still making a small, intimate movie.